All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So the NFL schedule release comes out tomorrow, I believe, 8 o'clock. But in any case, in this one, I wanted to talk about really my kind of schedule wish list, my hopes for the Jets' upcoming schedule. Right, a day out. What am I really looking for? What do I have my fingers crossed for? Well, of course, every team has the bulk of the same ideas, warm games late into the year, a nice rotating split between home and away games, right? So, yeah, you could have like a nice chunk of home games, which is great. For example, like, oh, the month of October, you're all at home, or you have one away game in the month of October, something like that. But then you of course, have to make up for it. You don't want to be in December, January, and you're looking at that schedule, and you got one home game in the last 5 weeks of the season. Like that's just not ideal. Now, we did get word that the Jets are going to be playing the Broncos in week 6 over in London. Personally, I'm loving this matchup, right? I think the Jets and the Broncos match up well with each other, and you have all these different storylines, whether it's Darren Muji coming in from the Denver Broncos organization, the Jets' new GM. You have two great defensive minds in Vance Joseph and Aaron Glenn. You have Aaron Glenn being a disciple of Sean Payton, so it's kind of like the teacher versus the student. I'm really two young quarterbacks with high upsides in Justin Fields and Bo Nix. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. And also, it kind of feels like the Jets and the Broncos have like that similar rivalry as like the Jets and the Jaguars, where it's just like we're playing each other every single year, no matter what, which I find interesting. And of course, it's over in London, right? Big fan of the international games. I love waking up early, right? That 9 o'clock, 9:30 slot. I mean, if your team can go out and get a win in that 9:30 slot, you're like kind of kicking back on Sundays, 1 o'clock, the later window, Sunday Night Football. You're just chilling, right? You got typically, not every single time, but typically your team gets a bye after the international game. So your team is going to London. And by the way, the international fans are awesome, right? Like that's just the definition of being like a diehard, like a true fan of football, right? I guarantee during that Jets Broncos game, they're gonna like pan the camera around. They're gonna be fans of the stands with like Lions merch, Saints merch, Ravens merch, Bears hats and stuff. And it's like that team isn't playing, but yet they've bought a ticket. They're spending their Sunday hanging out, watching two teams that they aren't a fan of. That's top notch. That's man, it's just so cool. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that matchup again, week 6 Jets Broncos. But personally, when I'm thinking about Jets specifics, right? What am I looking for? Again, we could talk about home games late into the year, nice split between road and home games, kind of sprinkled throughout the year, but specifically for the Jets, what am I hoping for? First and foremost, I want a lot of 1 o'clock games. I'm a fan of primetime football, but I just don't feel like it's what the Jets need right now. I just want Sundays at 1. I think it could be tough for young football teams as well as teams that are being coached by first-year regimes, right, to get into a flow, right? All of a sudden, first couple weeks go by, boom, we have a primetime game. Long week. We have an extra day to prepare. But on the flip side, you now have a shorter week to prepare for your next opponent. If you have 3-4 primetime games just dropped into the schedule, it just feels very hectic for a first year coaching staff, Aaron Glenn, first year OC. And then, of course, you're looking at the roster. First year quarterback in Justin Fields, learning a brand new system. So ideally, maybe selfishly too, because I just love the 1 o'clock slate on Sundays. You're just kind of in that routine. And then game planning, you're in a routine, practice schedules in a routine. Sundays at 1. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I want to see a lot of 1 o'clocks when the schedule releases. And to kind of build off that, my second point here is, I would like the Jets to play, maybe their lesser opponents, quote unquote. No game is an automatic win. Clearly, right, with the Jets, we're coming off a 5-win season with that roster. It was a disaster, as we all know, but ideally, I think for me, because we have two new systems, offense, defense, because we have two new play callers, a brand new head coach, a brand new culture trying to be implemented, a brand new quarterback, lots of new faces with Cisco, with Membu at right tackle, Mason Taylor at tight end, Arian Smith at wide receiver here. Lots of fresh faces, right? Derek, all these new defensive tackles, all these veteran DTs. because we have a lot of fresh faces, because there's so much newness with the Jets. Again, I would like to play Carolina, Jacksonville, the New Orleans Saints early on in the year, right? As opposed to, slamming the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals at the start of the year, because I want the Jets to have a better onboarding process with the scheme. Like, we all know that the game of football, it's a game of inches. One screw up, and that could be the game. One turnover, one missed call, one botched timeout situation, clock management, a challenge gone awry, whatever it may be, a fourth down conversion by the other team. One situation can screw the game up, and all of a sudden you can find yourself on the losing end. I think, again, whenever you have all these new faces, these new schemes implemented, there's going to be some rocky moments. There's going to be some speed bumps and mistakes along the way. First-year head coach, there's going to be moments where Aaron Glenn maybe wishes he had an opportunity back or wish he did something a little bit differently. It's just all a part of the process. But if those mistakes can come against the Panthers of the world, the Saints of the world, no disrespect to those teams, I think in the case of Carolina, they're going to look a lot better this season. But just when you look at the, macro perspective, who we're playing, the New York Jets opponents, I would like to play again, no disrespect, the lesser teams early. So if we have those mistakes, maybe they aren't as killer, right? If you're playing the Buffalo Bills and you have more turnovers than the Bills early in the year, it's going to be tough to bounce back from. But say you throw that pick or you make that mistake against the Saints. Oh, well, they have a first-year head coach in Kellen Moore. They don't have, a ton of talent compared to, the Bengals and the Cowboys and teams like that. So maybe they don't capitalize on that situation, which ultimately would result in, or potentially could result in, a W for the Jets as opposed to an L early on. I think if we can start off the season with a lot of wins, get the ball rolling, get the kinks out, while also learning on the fly, it'll set them up nicely for meaningful games down the stretch, as well as a more polished football team down the stretch as well. Now, I will say this, right? Selfishly speaking, I want the Jets to play the Steelers in week 1. I mean, dude, talk about just absolute motivation on so many different levels, right? The Steelers are, and I know we were just talking about playing the maybe lesser teams or the teams that aren't projected to win a bunch of games earlier on. But I think with the Steelers, if you want to talk about, of course, elephant in the room, you have the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, right? Is he going to be a Steeler? Is he not going to be a Steeler? Who the heck knows? Supposedly the Steelers are interested in Packers wide receivers. They're interested in Lazard, like all these different things, right? You have that whole aspect of it, right? Rodgers' return to MetLife Stadium with his new team in the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you also have it from Justin Fields' perspective as well. Like, he was kicked to the curb last year. 4-2 as a starter, good TD to INT ratio. The fans wanted you to continue being the quarterback. The players still wanted you to be, the starting quarterback of this team. And Tomlin said, nope, you are going to the bench. Russell Wilson is coming in. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, including Fields, right? Because like we all heard the rumors in the offseason, didn't want to go down that, path again. So it could be a nice, cool revenge game from the Jet side of it. Right, Justin Fields looking at his old team and Mike Tomlin, what could have been if they just, kept him out there and he kept learning in that Arthur Smith offense. But then also, too, I think something that's really maybe not being talked about as much, but in the locker room, right, during training camp when everyone gets the schedules, to see that Steeler logo week 1 at home MetLife Stadium, like you're circling that date. Again, the Justin Fields aspect, the Aaron Rodgers aspect, but this is a good football team early. So I think there would be that added motivation. You know what? Like there's going to be no lazy days in practice. There's going to be no days off during training camp, right? When the days are hot, when the days are tough, maybe you have a tough joint practice or something like that, tempers are flaring, you just look back at that schedule. Pittsburgh Steelers, a professional, well-ran organization you got in week 1. They're coming to your house. Yeah, you better be prepared. They potentially might have Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback that we moved on from because of all the distractions and disappointments, right? You don't want that guy walking in here and essentially proving us wrong. And then we got Fields on our end, right? Again, Pittsburgh kicked him to the curb. We got to make sure that Pittsburgh made a mistake, right? By having this team ready to go, having this team ready to play, right? It's just that extra motivation, right? You're kind of looking up at the Steelers. They're a playoff team every single year. They get bounced in round one, but still they're a well-ran organization that they get to the dance every single year. New York is looking up at Pittsburgh right now. So to have that game circled right off the bat, it's something to work for every single day in training camp. Of course, everyone's going to be motivated for every game. It's going to be the first game of the year, home opener and everything. But, that Steelers game, I think would add some extra motivation for literally every single player and every single coach in that Jets locker room, right? Especially now with Rodgers coming out and, giving his side of the story about Aaron Glenn and Darren Mushi and how the breakup went, if you will, and how he was pissed about it. You can kind of tell, there's something there. There's like an edge, and I feel like we don't have a lot of rivalries, and there's in today's game we lost a lot of that like edginess, if you will. I miss like growing up, and it was like AFC East games are just like Jets Dolphins, dude, Jets Patriots, no matter who wins, it's just like you could tell the two teams don't like each other, and there's just this edge. There's this kind of extra juice, extra fire in all these different players because they do not want to lose to their rivals. I mean, who is a rivalry today? You got like long-term rivalries, like historic ones, Green Bay, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. But I mean, you kind of feel like the only real rivalry that's taking place where the two teams just don't really like each other, Kansas City and Buffalo. But outside of those two teams, it's like, where is that rivalry? Every team growing up had like a couple rivals where it's just like, yeah, you got to suit them up when this team comes to town because it's going to be like a bloodbath, like big hits, big time plays, that extra fire. So I kind of missed that. So again, anyway, Jets Steelers week 1 is kind of what I'm hoping for here. But let me know your hopes. Let me know your wish list down below in the description box here. I can't wait for the schedule. Should be a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.